All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our BCBA practice question series. We're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. A researcher designs an experiment to test the effectiveness of a visual schedule on reducing transition times between activities in a classroom. The visual schedule is introduced to one group of students while another group follows standard verbal instructions. The researcher measures the time it takes for each group to transition between activities. What is the independent variable in this study? So for research designs, you want to know what the independent variable is, dependent variable is, and then understand extraneous variables. Now, extraneous variables are going to be all the other variables that we aren't necessarily controlling, but that we should try to control to prevent them from interfering with our research. Our primary concerns are the independent and dependent variable. Now, the independent variable is going to be whatever you introduce, whatever you manipulate. If you introduce an extinction procedure, that is your independent variable. The dependent variable is going to be what you're measuring. How is your independent variable affecting the dependent variable? In this case, what are we introducing? Well, we're trying to test the effectiveness of a visual schedule. And so one group of students gets the visual schedule and the other gets verbal instructions. So that's going to be our independent variable. However, that affects our transition, which is our dependent variable, is what we're measuring. So if we look at A, the type of instruction or schedule will be the independent variable, or IV. The transition time is going to be the dependent variable. That's what we're measuring. That's what we're looking at change. How is our intervention affecting that transition time, that behavior? The number of transitions completed is not what we're measuring, so that's out the question. And then the challenging behavior observed during transition could be measured in the future, but not exactly what we're measuring here. We are introducing different types of schedules or instructions. So we have a visual schedule and verbal instructions. Those are our independent variables, and they're impacting the time it takes for transition or the transition time. Our independent variable in this study is A, the type of instruction or schedule. Jason is teaching the color of the month, which is blue. He tells his class, hold up your blue card, and then immediately holds up his own blue card. After a couple of trials, he repeats this, but waits 3 seconds until holding up his own blue card. What is Jason likely using? Not a lot of information to go off of. Sometimes that's easier, and sometimes it gets a little more complicated when you don't have a lot of information to use. Because remember, when you're answering these questions, you're only using the information provided. What do we know about Jason? Jason's teaching a color. He's teaching blue. He gives the SD, which is hold up your blue card, and then he prompts immediately. Later, he does this again. He says, hold up your blue card, but now he's waiting 3 seconds until prompting. So what he's doing is he's progressively increasing the time between the SD and the prompt. And what's the purpose of that? Well, we have to give our learners longer and longer opportunities to respond. A common mistake is prompting too quickly after you've already taught something or in the middle of teaching something. Sometimes kids just need a couple seconds to think, or adults, or whoever you're working with. So if we're prompting too quickly the whole time, we're never really giving a chance for our learners to be independent. In this case, Jason is taking the opportunity to wait and give the learners a chance to be independent. So what is Jason likely using? A, most to least prompting. Well, Jason's using some sort of visual prompt, it appears, and that's the only prompt he's using. He's not going up and down the hierarchy, so we're not really moving most to least or least to most. He's not using B, graduated guidance, because he's not using any physical prompting, and graduated guidance is a type of physical prompting. What Jason is using is what we would call a progressive time delay. We are progressively increasing how much time between the SD and the prompt. Who knows? Next, Jason might wait 5 seconds. And then D, error correction. No information is given on how Jason is correcting errors or using error correction. So of course, that is out. The correct answer here is going to be C, progressive time delays. You typically buy unflavored protein powder to put in your coffee because it mixes better and does not clump. When you buy chocolate flavored, the powder clumps up and makes it difficult to drink, so you stop buying the chocolate. However, occasionally, you'll go back to buying the chocolate powder, even though the result is always the same. What aspect of punishment is highlighted here? So interesting question. It's clearly a punishment question, and we want to know about the aspect of punishment. So let's just think real quick. What do we know about punishment? We know there are ethics involved with punishment. We know it decreases behavior. We know it can be positive or negative. We know it can lead to emotional outbursts. We know it can lead to aggression. We have all these ideas, and we know punishment is not permanent because we should teach a replacement behavior. Now, in this case, right, what do we know about your behavior? Well, you buy unflavored protein powder, it mixes better. So essentially, you put the powder in, it mixes, that's reinforcing. But when you've bought the chocolate flavored in the past, it clumps up and makes it difficult to drink, which is punishing. You stop buying the chocolate. However, even though you're punished, sometimes you buy the chocolate powder just to have the same result. So what is being demonstrated by that fact? You've been punished, but sometimes you go back anyway. A, spontaneous recovery is demonstrated. Is spontaneous recovery associated with punishment? No, spontaneous recovery is associated with extinction. A is out. B, punishment is not permanent. Yes, one of the issues with punishment is it's not permanent. For one, punishment can lose its effectiveness over time. We can get resistance to punishment. They can build up a tolerance for punishment. Two, punishment is just not permanent like reinforcement is. And so over time, the effect of that punishment has faded. And so you go back to buying that same chocolate powder. C, the replacement behavior should be functionally different than the punished behavior. We know that's not true. If we're replacing a behavior, we want it to serve the same purpose, typically. And the punishment can lead to emotional outbursts and aggression. That is true, but that's not what is highlighted in this particular case. Although true, given our information, that's not what's happening here. The aspect of punishment highlighted here is the fact that punishment is not permanent. Norm is a behavior analyst for a client whose parents are getting divorced. The parents are no longer on good terms and are living separately. When Norm goes to the mom's house, she attempts to get Norm to agree with her side, while the dad wants Norm to agree with him on who is right and wrong in their divorce. Norm thinks the dad is right. What should Norm do? All right. So you might run into a situation where you have divorced parents or parents who are fighting or just general marital problems. Now, Norm is in the situation where the parents, they're not on good terms, they're living separately, and it makes it hard for Norm because both parents want Norm to agree with them. Now, Norm thinks the dad is right. So what should Norm do? A, remain honest and give his truthful opinion when asked. Now, we're not saying you need to lie, but being brutally honest when it doesn't come to behavior analytic things is probably not the best course of action. It doesn't benefit the client for Norm to side with one parent or the other, especially when he has to go to both houses. B, let the mom know that he will only be providing services at the dad's house from here on out. Well, that doesn't appear to be ethical given the information we have. He's going to both houses. Just because Norm agrees with dad doesn't mean he can't give services at mom's. This seems more of a legal matter in that case. C, remain neutral and focused on behavior analytic services. Yes, obvious, easy, straightforward answer, but parsimony says that's typically the right way to go about it. Just remain neutral. Picking sides here is not what Norm wants to do. D, recommend the parents try and go to marriage counseling together. Now, given certain situations, if someone explicitly were to ask Norm his recommendation, his professional opinion for a marriage counselor, maybe Norm finds a reference. But just offering that up in this situation is crossing the line, especially given what we know about the parents and what we know about Norm's opinion. So what Norm needs to do is remain neutral and focused on behavior analytics services. A behavior analyst is monitoring a client's behavior change over time. They want to display how often the behavior occurs during each session over a series of weeks to visually show increases and decreases. What type of graph would be most appropriate to use? This is a simple definition question that is attempting to be more difficult with the wording. If we want to monitor a client's behavior change over time, and we're going to display, so some sort of graph, how often the behavior occurs during each session over a series of weeks. So we have behavior, we have weeks and sessions, right? And then we're going to display it. What are we using? Well, we're using an equal interval graph. Our line graphs are equal interval graphs, right? We're showing increases and decreases, which is important because that rules out cumulative records, because cumulative records only go up. It's not a bar graph because the bar graph is not going to show or display what we want to see. Same with the scatter plot. Bar graphs and scatter plots are showing different things than what we're trying to demonstrate here. Type of graph that's most appropriate, it's going to be an equal interval graph. Thank you for watching. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.